Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes, and welcome to the show.
Here we are. Good morning.
Good morning, and you wanted to do a market update.
Yeah, kind of give an idea of where we're at this week.
Well, because, as we talk about it week after week after week after week, the market continues to be hot.
Yeah.
And traditionally, this is the time when it starts to pick up, but it never slowed down in the wintertime.
We didn't have any slowdown.
There was
it's just continued.
Yes.
And, as a buyer, it's frustrating because you're like, when is a house going to come on that I want to buy?
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could predict that, but I can't.
Right.
But what I can tell you, that's classic sales guy, right?
Yeah.
Or public affairs officer training. That's the first thing they told you. Is, if you can't really answer the question. But what I can tell you, so just listen to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice.
When you watch a press conference now, when people are doing it. Well, they don't answer your question, but what I can tell you is that this week we have 55 homes available in the county.
It seems like that's up a little bit.
It's up a little. I think the last time we did the weekly update, there were 54.
Okay.
Well, we're up 55.
Okay.
And this is currently active and available for buyers to buy. As we talked about last week with, statuses in the MLS or contingencies, these are homes that are listed as either active, back on the market, or they are contingent first right, which means that the buyer of that property has a house to sell in order to purchase.
Okay.
So there are 55 homes available. The interesting piece is we've seen, now that the lake market is in full swing, 9 of those 55 are $1 million plus.
Wow.
So there are 9 $1 million plus houses on the market, and only one of those 9 is non-lake. Everything else is on the lake. So there's 8 lake listings that are above $1 million.
See, that's not. I'm playing in the minor leagues. That's not.
That's not where I'm buying.
That's where.
That's not where I'm looking to buy a house, and that's not where a majority of the folks are looking to buy a house.
Right.
So I parsed out. Oh, and the average price with all of those lake listings in there is $630,000 for the county. That really skews it up.
Yeah, it does.
So if we take them out, if we take those lake listings out.
Okay.
There are 34 active listings available for the average Joe to buy.
That is not that many.
That is not that many.
Because
it's been consistent. It's right around that 30 number is what we see week to week.
Yeah, because a family of 4 might be looking for, a 3-bedroom or whatever. Or,
Yeah.
But a family of 5 might be looking for a 4-bedroom. And we've talked about how 4-bedrooms were like on the rise as far as people wanting those because of working at home and things like that. So
correct.
34 active listings. It's not that many.
Not that many. The average days on market for those 34 homes is 33 days. So they're turning pretty quickly.
Yeah, they are.
Obviously, it's 33 days. That means there have been some that have been on a little longer that are kind of dragging that number up. But, that still 33 days being on the market. Back when we were 2008, 2009, and we were looking at 6 months, 185 days on the market.
Yeah.
Totally different spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
The average price of a typical residential home in Kosciusko County is $319. That's the average list price that's out there right now. The median's $298. So as we've talked of week over week over week, median average, median is more indicative, so around $300,000. So when I'm talking to folks now, what's the average price of a home in the county? About $300,000.
Yeah.
That's the average price of any residential non-lake property in Kosciusko County.
But if we go back, say 3-4 years ago,
we'd be in the 250s, 240s, something like that. It's gone up significantly. Yeah. 14 of the 34 are new construction.
Okay.
So 14 of the 34, that is good news.
Yeah.
Right? That is very good news.
Glad to see that we're
building.
Because
that's telling us that we're getting houses out there, that builders are finally jumping back in and starting to construct, which, as we've talked about it in the past, as we'll talk about it in the future, how do we dig our way out of this inventory shortage? Mm-hmm. Building is a big part of that, and new construction is a big part of that.
Well, there's several housing additions that are going in right now.
There are. And they are bringing new homes on the market. I'm not going to say regularly because there's only so many builders, there's only so many lots, and material shortages and labor shortages are impacting their ability to build those. There's builders here that 4 months was a typical construction cycle for them. That's actually pushing out now to where it's closer to 5 months. And I'm talking an average home, not a custom lake home that takes 2 years to build. I'm talking a typical residential home. 4 to 5 months is the cycle time to build those homes.
But also, these same the material shortages, the labor shortages, the inventory, lack of inventory. Fort Wayne's dealing with it. South Bend is dealing with it. So these places, these people are being called to all these different places to try to build homes because we're not alone.
No, we're not alone. We're all together in this, right? In our local area, and I think it's nationally, everybody's dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So of the homes that are out there and active on the market, only 3 under 100,000, 5 between 100 to 200,000, and 10 are between 200 and 300, and that's why our average sales price is closer to that 300,000 mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So, and after the break, we'll talk about inventory and maybe some strategies for buying. If you're a buyer, hang in there. Listen to us. That's a tease. I'm a radio guy now.
Yeah, there you go. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes. And we just did a market update, and the market, remains very similar to what it's been.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. You wanted to talk about some strategies to make sure you get that property you're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a buyer's standpoint, you need to have a plan. Okay. Just, fire for effect is not the way to go. You need to have a plan. How am I going to get there? How am I going to, win the battle and ultimately purchase a home? So, right now, I guess one of the questions is, would you buy a house with no contingencies? As a buyer, I think you need to ask that question of yourself. Yeah. Because that is one of the strategies to win is no contingencies.
Okay.
No contingencies. You really need to build that into that plan. You got to think about it. But, are you willing to say, hey, I don't want inspections?
See, I don't know if I could do that. To be honest with you, I don't know if I can do that.
I understand.
But
I got you.
But I haven't bought a house in this market.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. But you really need to think about that.
Right.
Are you willing to waive a survey? Do you not need a survey? And that one is not so hard to get past.
Okay.
If it's a platted lot.
Right.
It makes sense. You can pretty much find your boundaries. Now, people do get territorial about their homes, about their yards, but the fact that my neighbor mows to here and you can see the line, that is not sufficient. What I always advise folks is if you're planning to put a fence up or if you have a concern, is that house in the right spot? If you've got a house that's really close to the edge of a property line and you're thinking about buying that house, might make sense to get a survey because maybe it hadn't ever been surveyed and they just built the house where they built it.
Right.
But as a buyer, that is one thing you can do. So no inspections, no survey, no home warranty. You can do those things. And I guess the other thing that you can do is take a look and buy a house sight unseen. So you do have to move quickly.
Okay.
But are you ready to buy a house sight unseen?
I don't know if I can do that.
I don't believe that I could.
Okay. But it's happening then.
It is happening. And, so there's a study out that 42%, this is a study by Homes.com, they surveyed 1,500 people.
Okay.
And 42% of those people said they would be willing to buy a home sight unseen.
Really?
So again, why are we mentioning this? If I'm a buyer in this market, almost half of the people can beat me to get in to look at that thing because they don't look at it. They're looking at it online. So why are people more comfortable to do that? Part of it is the improvement in technology. There's more pictures. I remember back in the day, now this is when I was looking to buy my first home in 1985.
Okay.
Just aged myself, right? But 1985.
Yep.
You went to the realtor's office, and they had a book. And in that book, there was one picture.
That's it.
Of the house.
Right.
And a very short description. So you opened the book and you said, I can buy in this price range and in this area. They opened the book and there was one picture and a very, very, very brief description of the home.
Yeah.
Very brief. And then they would say, okay, you've got 3, 4, whatever to choose from. Then you went out and you drove and you looked at all of those houses. Mm-hmm. If we were in that same place today, I would say that number would not be 42% of buying sight unseen. I think it would be 0.
Yeah, correct.
Because who is going to buy a house from one picture and a very brief description out of a book?
Right.
Fast forward to today. Virtual tours, there's up to 36 pictures in the MLS. You've got people that can do a virtual walkthrough. I mean, I've done more Facebook Live where I'm walking through, or I record a video for a client, I upload it to YouTube, and then send that to them to where they can essentially see the flow of the house. Because that's the thing you can't get out of pictures, is the flow of the house. I mean, because the pictures, they're great individually, but what if the layout's all jacked up?
Yeah, right. You know, because they're choppy.
They're choppy.
Right. Yeah. So
you can get some of that from a virtual tour or a walkthrough like that.
Yeah, you can. But then also, just thinking about this, you know, you could go onto like Google Maps and so forth and do a street view, because I'm thinking like, well, I want to see what the neighbors. Right. You know, I want to see the drive, you know, from like if I'm coming home from work, like what's that drive gonna, you know?
Sure.
But you could actually do that through the Google Earth.
You can virtually. You're doing those things. So, you know, not only are the pictures better, but the data's better. You know, and again, I say it all the time. Buyers have probably got too much information because it's information overload. But they know what it sold for before. They can find out what the tax records are. Yeah. If you go on Realtor.com and click more info, it brings up, you know, past sales. It brings up a lot of stuff.
Everything. Yeah,
there's information again. Think back to 1985. One brief, you know, bullet description and one picture to what you see today, totally different. So I get it. My generation, in all likelihood, is not going to buy sight unseen. But the millennials that are coming up, I think they're going to. I think those folks that are in their 30s, you know, maybe even into the 40s at this point and younger, are probably not going to have a problem buying sight unseen.
You know, I mean, when you asked me the question initially, I'm like, would you buy sight unseen? No, absolutely not. No, but now that you just walked me through it, I get it. I see why that number is 42%. I imagine that the survey that was done, because it was probably done on a digital level, it was probably a bunch of younger millennials.
Right. They didn't mail out to grandma and grandpa and say, hey, respond to this survey. Would you buy a house?
Yeah, my parents did not take that survey. All right. Hey, Mark, we got to wrap up here. Your contact information?
Sure. Website's lakes-realtors.com. Phone number's 574-834-1233. Check out YouTube, Real Estate in Real Time.
Yeah, all this digital stuff.
All that digital stuff is there. You can't miss
it. All right. All right. Very good. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend.